Okay, today is Chapter 4 of Innovation and Inquiry in the Classroom, which is designing 20% time for the classroom. And I know I was not particularly open-minded in my last video about Chapter 3, which was the history repeats itself in a good way, because it just seemed very much like, oh, here's the ways that here's how it's worked in the past, but it didn't give you any like concrete steps. It didn't seem like a very practical chapter. So this one, I was very snarky. I wrote, hopefully the practical part of this book next to the chapter 4. So on the first page, it says there's probably 3 ways that you've reacted to, or that the readers reacted to the 20% time. And one is like, that's awesome. Number 2 is, that sounds great, but, always the but I don't know if I could make it work or if it will work. And number 3 is, that's crazy. That's low to hooey. There's no way it can work. And my initial reactions to these were, my opinions are a bit of all 3. I absolutely think that it could, I think it could work. I love that it says, I want my class, child, school to have that opportunity, and I want my kids to have that opportunity, you know? Especially the 6th grade. I would like to do this with the 6th graders coming up, and they are, a bit of a tough bunch. Like, they're very lovable, but there's, I think, a higher percentage that, I don't know, just a higher percentage that, I have a tough time with some of them. So I'm hoping that this will, like, engage them in a way that I haven't been able to do yet. I like that sounds great, but, and the reason why I think that a little bit is because 20% of my class time is 6 classes. And I'm like, oh no, will I be able to like get all of this in? Is it possible for me to do all of this like in just 6 classes? I mean, that's not very much. And number 3, like, that's crazy. Something like that could never work. Once again, we are lowering the bar for kids. I think that's just like kind of my own doubt talking to me, like, oh my God, how could this ever possibly work? But I noticed that as I was reading the reasoning behind, like, that's awesome, and also that sounds great, I'm like, okay, you know, this would be possible. I think so. I just have to be confident in my own ability to facilitate this in my classroom. So for the This Is Awesome group, they talk about how the project gives them ownership in their learning, and which is kind of great. I feel like maybe like Steve Corey does something like this for the Greek project that they do, or the 6th grade teachers do something like this for the Greek project. I wasn't able to go this year to Greek Fest, but I was in 2018, and just like the kids were so excited by it. They wanted me to try all of their foods, and they wanted to show me their research on like the Greek theater and Greek dress and Greek architecture. And so I think I've seen this work, or I've seen a version of this work at Mid-Lakes already, which it's encouraging, and it's cool to know that other teachers are on board for this. They kind of give, I like my project had 5 main components that helped it run successfully, kind of like that bare bones outline. That is very helpful for me. I'm very good at following directions, which makes me wonder, would I benefit from doing a 20% project? And I think that I would, and I will pursue one, because when the kids say, oh my God, what is this? Like, what can you do with this? Like, having a model and an example would be very good. Don't grade the final project, to which I said, perfect, because my kids only get graded on 2 points anyways, which are effort and comprehension. And the 20% project kind of covers both of those things. Like, are they trying? Are they making a game plan? Are they following through with what they say they will? And are they they're becoming an expert at a particular topic. So that is not a worry for me whatsoever. The third thing he talks about in the outline, like the bare bones outline, is the peer accountability. And I accidentally did that last year with the ukulele project. The kids posted ukulele tutorials on School Tool, and then kids started commenting on them, which I didn't expect. And I didn't make it part of the project, but the comments were so kind. Like, that was great. So I wonder, I need to I need to figure out how to do that on purpose, because that was a very happy accident. And then the fourth one was the reflection, which I have as like, okay, yeah, it's kind of the ticket out of the door. What did I do today? What am I going to do next time? What snags did I run in today? I would have to find a way to make that pretty short, I think. Not certain. And then the presentation, Giuliani suggests that they do an informal presentation in front of the class and give almost like a TED Talk. I don't know if that would necessarily work for me, but what I wrote down is maybe I could do like a roundtable discussion, like have kind of, like an outer circle and an inner circle, and then have like this pair present visuals, have like this pair present to another, and then like the inner circle moves, and then this pair shares, and then that pair shares, and then that pair shares, or the group or individual or whomever. I think that might work. And then I would just kind of have to like pop in and listen to everybody and kind of go from there. That might be something that works pretty well. And for the implementation options, they have collaboration, technology, standards and Common Core, and parental involvement. And I think realistically I need to check out the music standards. So there are like New York State standards for the arts, and it would probably be wise for me to like go and cross-check and be like, all right, which of these standards are we hitting? Just in case, teaching to the New York State standards is important, but it also makes this project maybe like a little bit more legitimate if I could like back it up to what the state says. I don't know. And then parental involvement, I'm like, is that something that I need to do? If it's just in a special, I don't really know. Like maybe I could make an announcement on School Tool, and like that would be good. That's actually a really good idea. I gotta remember that. I can write that down. Send out School Tool message. Okay. And then the steps for success were also, that was just also like that, nice and easy to follow. Like be a model for your students. Like, okay, yes. Basically like prepare, plan. The conference point could be a little bit tricky. Like how do I meet with the 20 students in my class about their learning in a 40-minute time period? And I think it would have to be over a couple of classes. But then I wonder if that's not going to be beneficial, because then like students might just spend one class wandering aimlessly on their own, and then they would be a day behind. But then I guess the point of this project isn't necessarily to create a finished product, or I don't know that it would be to create a finished product in the music case, or just I think it would be more of like researching something that's interesting to you. So maybe, I don't know, maybe talking to like half the students one day, half the students the other day. But then I run into the issue of like I can't facilitate what's going on in the classroom very well, so I think I would just need to brainstorm some ideas about how to handle that. I like the sharing, build in time for students to share with each other regularly. So that could be like a reflection on school tool, or he mentioned something about a website called like blogger.com, like comment on students' blog posts. I think that would be a cool idea. I like the facilitating success and failure. Like many students will fail to reach lofty goals they set for themselves, but this is not a failure. It's the best learning experience to have. And I love this. I love that, like, it doesn't have to be black and white, because like life isn't black and white. Like you don't always succeed 100%. You don't always fail 100%. And like a lot of the times when you do fail, you come out of it. You eventually get there with something great. My example being, how many jobs did I interview for before I got my Midlex position? At least 25 to 30, like a lot. So you learn and you keep going, and then eventually you hit success. Like, yay! Good real life. Good real life kind of reality check without it being like a particularly hard slap in the face. I think that is also important. Also teaches students some of those life skills. And then next to point 8, which is the presentation and feedback. This is something I try to do, but it doesn't always feel meaningful, or it doesn't go as far as I would like it to. Like usually I ask for 3 students to share something about what we just did in the classroom. But it's so hard for me to give time for students to like comment on each other, or like comment on each other's comments, just because, again, 40-minute class, it's tricky. So I think this 20% idea might just like also just completely flop the way that I do things normally, which is fine. It's only my 3rd year. I'm still young and chipper and willing to try new things. And then he goes on to talk about like the This Sounds Great But group, to which I love that he puts his email in this chapter. Like, if you have concerns or want to talk more about it, please email me. Like, he just opens up the door like, hey, I think this will work, and here's what we're going to do. Excuse me. Oh. And here's why. Like, I love that. So under myth 1, the 20% time isn't supported by my curriculum. I love the argument. Time allows students to go into depth on a subject they are already interested in, so they will be intrinsically motivated to learn. I love this because, like, music is one, I think that's a great argument. Music is like, it's a special, and the problem is, I think especially with boys, but maybe like also as like kids get a little bit older, music isn't like thought of as cool anymore, or maybe it was never thought as cool. I don't know. But some students are like definitely not as receptive to coming to music and being like, oh, this is girly, this is dumb, or even though I could cite a million reasons why it isn't. Most conductors in the world are men. Most composers in the world are men. It used to be only like men could play in orchestras and bands. Yeah. You hear something from the higher ups in your life and you're like, oh, that's stupid. But you figure out for yourself and you're like, oh my God. Then it turns into a fun fact. So I love that idea. I think that's a really strong argument. And I also love this, like the second myth, 20% time is just for enrichment students. It says 20% time is actually beneficial to students with an IEP because the pace and level of the subject material can be tailored to their specific modifications. This is a valuable learning experience for every student. I love this because many of the 6th graders coming up have an IEP, and I'm doing music with Patty Flynn's class in which every kid has an IEP. So this is very encouraging to me. Like, this makes me think like, yeah, I can do this. I can do this with all 130 students, like 130 6th graders next year. 5th and 6th, slightly less. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. 110. Let's go there. Myth 3, I read, even though it was like the Common Core Anchors and Standards, they gave ELA and math examples, even though I'm not an ELA or math teacher, I still read them, because I'm like, this might work as a crossover, like tying, one of the big things in music, the music standards is being able to tie music to other subjects. So tying it to ELA is, it might work as a crossover support for music because we talked about, like, we hit other subjects too within our lesson planning. So I think that would be great. Myth 4 is parents won't get behind it, to which my question is does this work in specials? Is this something I even have to worry about? But as I had that little serendipitous moment, to like send out a school tool message, like let parents know that this is what's going. And I love Myth 5, administration won't let it happen. I wrote in the sidelines, pretty sure Chris, Matt, and Elaine are cool with us. Like, pretty sure this book wouldn't have been given to us if as an option if the administration wasn't cool with this. So that made me laugh. And for the That's Crazy group, I like that. If you read the first and second parts of this chapter, then what is probably stopping you is attitude. And I just I laughed at that because you're right. It's doubt. It's doubt in myself. It's doubt in the students not all the students, but some of them being like, oh, is this going to work? And one of the sentences that really hit me was, do you see the direct correlation between each problem? And there's like 3 problems that students have, both in school and in the real world. Too often the system of schooling sends students down a path to follow directions and be rewarded. And that's totally what it is, and that's totally how I approach school sometimes, like follow directions. Get stars toward a reward day, or get points toward a reward day. I'm like, so that was like a little smack in the face. So no, you can't just teach. Do we just teach our best students to play the game of school? Like, no, you can't. And that's totally what I've been doing in some instances. Like, it's like with my behavior management. So I gotta rethink that. Like, there has to be organization in the classroom, but kids should also learn like what they want to, but maybe it's not a mutually exclusive thing. Like maybe it's just like I set the expectations for behaviors, and then through this project, kids figure out what they like, and then they get rewarded intrinsically for doing things that they like. That sentence was a real slap in the face. Later on, I think the last sentence in this chapter, page 45, our students don't need to wait till they leave school to make an impact on the world around them. To which I commented, I love this attitude, and I see it in some students already. Like when we had the What Mid Lakes Means to Me contest, the kids who won, like who went out there and they really made like a positive contribution to the school by showing like why is Mid Lake so great. Like they are working to change or they are working to make the attitude in Mid Lakes like positive and to encourage positive interactions between students. And that was great. Good job, Pete. Good job, Chris. And the last part in this chapter is there is an outline, like the 20% time in Genius Hour project handbook, in which I am going to put a sticky note as soon as I am done with this video because I will need to quickly reference it. So it gives like a really great outline of like how this 20% project is going to work. Mine was like, how to do this in 6 classes, condensed version ? We'll figure that out. That's part of this project. So that was incredibly helpful. And I love that. So he also includes a chart right here talking about, oops, oh gosh, backwards. There we go. Talking about the Genius Project, autonomy, mastery, and purpose, documenting the process. This was fabulous because it is like it's another outline, and it says take this as a learning experience, not an easy grade. Your success will suffer if you do not sincerely pursue an interest of yours. That's hysterical. Like, I love this because like it generates the intrinsic motivation, and it's like, oh, don't choose something you don't like choose something that you like, otherwise you're not gonna like it. Like that's so funny. It's just so opposite of what you hear in classrooms. Like, I love it. So I oh, so I'm going to have to modify this. And it does look like chapter 5 is Genius Hour for elementary students, which is kind of what I've got. I think that this chapter may have been pitched more to like the middle high school level. But I'm keeping my eye on, like, I will probably lift that sentence and appropriately cite it in my presentation about the 20% project to my students, because it's so smart. It's so smart, and it's not at all what they're going to expect. And I love that. That's like, what a great idea. So yeah. So next time it'll be chapter 5, Genius Hour for elementary students, and I'm on a roll today, so maybe you might see me later in the same shirt. It's really cute. It's got little cats on it. It's a copycat. But anyways, besides the point. So till next time,